Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings. Hope you're all having a good day. We are having a big storm here in Gibraltar and southern Spain. It's blowing a hoolie out there. Anyway, let's get to the subject. Harry in Vegas. What could possibly go wrong? Yes, he's appeared. Now, you'll have to forgive my ignorance because not only do I know absolutely nothing about American sport, I don't know anything about UK sport. I don't know anything about sport in general, apart from the different names of the different games, and I've got a rough idea. I've never been into sport. In fact, I was always one of those kids at school where I was picked last, and the whole team would groan with depression at the thought of having me on their team. And they were quite right. I was hopeless at it, useless at it. So I just never got into watching it. Me and Graham are just not sports fans. He's from Liverpool, and people always say, "What colour are you, red or blue?" And he's like, "I'm not into football." If he had to be anything, he'd have to be red, I suppose, because his father was. Right, so Harry in Vegas apparently gave an award to somebody, and forgive me again, I've never heard of this person, and I'm sure they are super famous, called Cameron Haywood. I'm assuming they're a sports person, probably a footballer, and apparently they do a lot for charity. So that's all good. Wonder if Harry did any strip billiards later on. Oh, those were the days, weren't they? When he used to be carefree, footloose, having fun. Poor guy, actually, I do sympathise with him on that occasion because he didn't know someone had a camera. Having said that, I don't think I've ever been caught strip naked, playing a strip naked game, because I've never played one. So, but then it occurred to me, oh, and there was another thing, I was going to mention it yesterday and then I completely forgot. There's a new commercial for a makeup line. I forget the name, I think it's something like Elf. I'll try and find it. In fact, I'll put a link in the description to the commercial itself. Now, it's starring Judge Judy, so they've called it Judge Beauty. And it's got all the cast, the major cast players of Suits, minus a certain person. And I watched it, and yeah, it's quite amusing. It's a bit hammy, you know, but I get it. I get the joke because they're the stars of Suits and stuff. And it's all about don't spend too much money on makeup. You can look great for $14, just buy this product kind of thing. I don't know, I found myself cringing a little watching it. And on this instance, Megan probably did the right thing by not joining in, but won't she be hell fury? Ooh, dishes flying, everybody protect their dishes, for God's sake. And one of you guys said, I think it was on X, I posted a link to this, and I think one of you said it's going to be played on the big screen at the Super Bowl, which I think is in Vegas, isn't it? Which is where Harry is. I'm just hopeless at this sort of thing. I mean, I'm familiar with Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. I really do. One of my favourite TV shows, as Graham will testify, is CSI Las Vegas. I love them. Jim Brass is my favourite character because he kind of reminds me of my dad. But I mean, Catherine, Sarah, that really, Gil Grissom. I love them all. My favourite was actually Dr. Ray. Ray Langmead, wasn't it? So I've got a great affection for Vegas, and also I'm an enormous fan of the Hangover films. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen the Hangover. I think the first one was in 2009, so maybe that inspired Harry for the 2012 Strip Billiards, because it's kind of a similar storyline. I'll try and dig out a little clip of how outrageous the Hangover, just in case you're not familiar. I'm guessing a lot of you are not going to be familiar. Don't be shocked. But I did find it funny. Leslie Chow being my favourite of them. So then it occurred to me, if Harry is skint, which in my opinion, I suspect he is, because I just can't see where his money comes from, perhaps his cunning plan is to get the last few $1,000s that he's got and put them on 17 black in Vegas. All jokes aside, gambling is a terrible affliction, actually. I had a mate, he was actually a neighbour, and such a sweet guy. And he had a terrible problem with it. I know that for a fact because I bought a car off him. And the car, I kid you not, was about this deep in those little red Ladbroke biros. I mean, it was just, it took me quite a while to fish them all out, and I'm not sure that I ever got all of them out of the footwells, and it was awful. And the thing with him was he admitted he had a problem. You know, I asked, when he sold me the car, he said, I'm really sorry about the biros. And I said, wow, you really like Ladbrokes, don't you? And he told me the story. What had happened to him was he had a big fancy house out in the countryside, a wife and 3 kids. He was a sales rep, very successful sales rep. And he said that one of his clients that he was trying to get a big contract with had said, will you come to, I can't remember if it was the Cheltenham races or something. And he said, you know, he had always hated the idea of gambling. He just didn't want anything to do with it. Anyway, he had to go and sort of wine and dine this guy. And the guy said, come on, put a bet on. And he said, absolutely not. No, I really don't want to ever get into this because I've seen what it can do to people's lives. Anyway, so the guy said, well, look, there's a thing called a trip something. And he said, you can bet 10p and you have to choose the winners of 3 races, and you've got to choose who comes first, second and third. So, I mean, what's the odds of that? And he thought, 10p, what's the odds? If I get the contract, all will be well. Well, he won £300,000. And he said to me, that was the day that my life ended. That was the day my life was destroyed. He said it was the win. It was that particular win, but he said subsequently every loss was a step closer to the next win. And little bit by little bit, he lost everything. He lost the house, he lost his wife, he lost his kids. When I knew him, I mean, I'm going back years and years. This was when I was very young, and I lived in a flat, and he was in a little flat with another lady, and he'd sort of taken on her kids, and she loved him. She really loved him. I mean, they were potless all the time. And he said, you know, I can't help myself. And then another time he came round to my flat to see me and my boyfriend. And he said, I've got to tell you, I've had my eye on a pony for months. And it's just right. And if you've got any money, put your money on this horse, this race, this afternoon. And we said the same as he'd originally said, you know, not into gambling. And then my boyfriend said, well, I've got a cheque. There's no money in the account, but I don't suppose the bookies will take that. It's awful, isn't it? Anyway, this neighbour of mine said, no, they will. They'll take that. So went down, I think it was 50 quid or something. My boyfriend wrote out for it. And we won. When we got back to my flat, we put the race on. I thought, oh, it's going to be like, I don't know, 6 or 7 horses in a race. Oh my God, there were like 37 horses. I thought, this is like 1,000 to 1. Which 3-legged camel are we backing? And I didn't know my head from my tail. I didn't know what was going on. And our neighbour was there, you know, shouting and jumping up and down and like the thrill of it and everything. And I was like, oh. And blow me, our horse came in and won. So we went back and they said, do you want your cheque back? Or whatever. So he took the cheque back and we got winnings. I think he got about 800 quid or something for that. Anyway, we both witnessed how excited our neighbour had been during the race. I mean, like beading with sweat and pulsating and stuff. And at that very moment, I thought, never. I've known a few people around this neck of the woods. Actually, we have a lot of online gaming companies in Jib, and it's a terrible affliction. I think with gambling, what you've got to do is, if it's an evening, like going for a meal at the Dogs, or it's a special occasion, Grand National. I think I've bet on the Grand National about 3 times and lost every single time. In fact, I had another boyfriend and I'd put 20 quid on Garrison Savannah, any of you out there who are familiar with the horse, and it was winning. And I was like, oh, it's winning, my horse is winning, my horse is winning. And just as it was about to come to the finish line, my boyfriend said, I'll bet it falls. And Garrison Savannah tripped and came in second. I ended the relationship with that gentleman, but not because of Garrison Savannah, nothing to do with the horse. It was just, he was such a negative person, and I just felt, what a silly thing to say. Just as a horse is coming into the finish line, you just don't say things like that. Anyway, so it is a serious subject, but I would love to visit Las Vegas. I know a lot of you guys are from Las Vegas. I'd love to see the lights and the effort that they go to in the casinos, and I can't remember which one it is that has the waterfall, the fountain. I mean, it's just wonderful architecture and the story and the history of how it came to be. Yes, I have seen the, what's the guy's name? Beatty, Warren Beatty. I've seen the film. I can't remember, I think it's called Bugsy or something. And I loved all those Frank Sinatra movies and stuff like that. Anything in Vegas. So I hope Harry is having a nice time in Vegas. Hope he's behaving himself. Ooh, well, someone's left home alone looking after the children. One can only wonder where that's going to go. It just seems to come thick and fast, doesn't it? Anyway, good luck, Harry. Hope your number comes in. As always, thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you all in the comments below.